an instructor would use a Learning Lab app. I won't explain how the Learning Lab teaching format works. That's a separate video. And to be clear, the learning does not happen in the app. I get a lot of people that believe an app could do everything, but learning happens much better between two people rather than on your own with an app. So the app only facilitates how people learn together. And as an instructor, you enter your curriculum into the app and then use the app in order to pair your students together. Picture you have 20 students in your learning lab, and the learning happens in pairs. So you need to figure out 10 pairings. You need to figure out what each student learns. And it's just very hard to do manually because you probably don't remember in detail what everyone knows, and it's much easier for an app that knows exactly which lesson someone already knows and can go through all the permutations of how to best connect everyone together. Let's start. This is a landing page. It's a normal landing page. We go to sign in. And if you're an instructor, you don't need to create a special account. You just create a normal account, and then you can create a course. And within your own course, you're the instructor. There we go. So I remember the last course I was in. So let's go back here. And this is a home screen. This is where students will select the course they're interested in. We're going to create a private course. In this area down at the bottom is where I can create a private course. And you can also see there's a place to put in an invitation code. You're going to create an invitation code that you can give to your students, and then they can join your private course. So I'm going to create private course. And it asks me for a course name, and an invitation code, and a description. So I could enter something like bicycle repair, and maybe this invitation code is bike dog, and I can give it like a nice description. Right now I'm not gonna hit the create button because I've already created a demo course for us to go through, so that's a bit set up. And it's the Home Barista course. You can kind of see the description pop up. Let's go into it. So this is a view that the students see. They see all the levels, and from the levels you can open up the lessons. But we're going to go to the gear button in the middle of the button navigation. So this is where we set up our curriculum, and there's a lot of stuff already happening because I have a whole course set up. You can see the levels, you can see the lessons in it. I'm gonna scroll down. And I'm gonna ignore this for a moment, because if you start, this would be all empty. The bread and butter of creating a new course is this add lesson. You're gonna enter lots of lessons. I'm gonna give the lesson a title, like maybe puncture repair. I'm gonna give it a little synopsis. I want to describe a little bit more like what puncture repair is, and maybe also get students a little bit excited about it. There's a cover photo. I have to save it first, and then I can add a cover photo. And we can add a recap video, lesson video, and practice video. I want to reiterate, people don't learn from the app, they don't learn from the videos. These are meant as supplementary information. So the idea behind the recap video is to just give like a 30-second summary of the lesson. Let's say we're teaching a salsa class, and our mentor might have learned a particular figure a month ago, and they're a little unsure. So they might look at the recap video. It's really quick, at 30 seconds, it just shows a figure. It doesn't teach. Like, the student is supposed to already know the figure, but they might just want to see it again for things to come back to their mind. You don't want your student mentors to stand around in class watching videos instead of mentoring. So just as a short little refresher video. The lesson video is actually a full-length lesson that explains the whole lesson. The idea is that maybe some students want to come into class prepared. Like maybe they're sitting on the subway on the way to your learning lab. There's some time. They can watch the lesson video and so they're a little more ready to engage with their mentor. Or maybe on the way home on the subway, like they were like, I really like this lesson or I missed something. And they just want to watch the video. Practice video is specifically for some subjects like dance. Dance doesn't involve to logically get something for a light bulb to go up. But you have to do a certain amount of doing the thing to actually pick it up. So maybe you learn from your mentor salsa shine pattern, step pattern. And in the practice video, it doesn't teach anything. It's just someone doing the step pattern to music, and then at home you can just watch them and keep repeating it to develop some muscle memory. I'm gonna skip over graduation requirements for a second to go to instructions. Instructions, you would fill in the instruction notes for your mentors. Again, you don't want to explain the whole lesson. Your mentor are supposed to already have learned the lessons themselves. These are more like refreshers, like, if I'm teaching a driving class, I know how to do a hill start, but maybe I forgot like the steps and how I should teach it. And so it's just like maybe 5 bullet points. Do this when you mentor, then this and then that. A little power tip here is, at the end of the instructions, and then I want to just add some extra information in case people are curious. If you add 3 dashes at the end of something, it makes it a new section. So this would create a note section. Again, it's not meant for while people are learning, but maybe on the subway ride home, or maybe you have a troubleshooting section for in case your mentors get stuck teaching something, that they can look up the troubleshooting section and figure out like, oh, if my student always does this with the left foot instead of the right foot, this is a trick to get them to get it. Let's head back to graduation requirements. We had a very specific problem in the early learning labs, and it was that some students were taught a lesson. They clearly didn't get it, but they wanted to be checked out that they have graduated the lesson anyway. Part of it is they didn't understand the point of the lesson, and they didn't realize just how badly they were missing it. Another part is people just want to make progress, and it was really hard to tell people now, and people would get very frustrated because they want to make progress. And so we came up with this idea of graduation requirements, and it's basically like a checklist. In order to graduate, you have to be able to check off these things. So imagine you're teaching a physical education class, and we're teaching someone to do push-ups. A checkpoint would be their hips have to be straight. Like you can't let your hips sag. Another thing is maybe their chin has to actually touch the ground. Maybe how they have to put their elbows. And then, at the end of a session, it gives the mentor a way to tell the learner like, hey, you let your hips drop. Or, you're not even halfway getting down to the ground. And then that's like a communication point where the learner can agree on like, yeah, I indeed don't do those things yet. And it's very positive because it gives them clear goals on like, I'm going to learn this lesson again. I'm going to focus on these things and then I actually mastered it. And yay. So let me cancel out of this and let me show you what a fully set up lesson looks like. So our espresso machine setup, we have a title, synopsis, like a nice image. We have our instructions for our mentors on what they have to do. And then we have like an optional notes section. And the coordination requirement is can set up the machine independently. So, the mentor can kind of like cross their arms, stand back and be like, okay, show me how you can do it. And then if they can't do it, it tells the learner themselves that, they're missing some things. And they can specifically ask to be shown the things that they're unsure about. So let's say you have a whole bunch of flex lessons at the bottom. So this is where your lessons go by default. Then you can click the plus buttons. We don't have any lessons, but you hit the plus button to insert a lesson right there. So I'm going to take away this lesson right here. Oops. And you see it shows up under flex lessons. So I'm going to go back here and I can insert it where I want it. It's a little bit buggy. Hopefully it's fixed by the time you get to see it. Yeah, and that's how I kind of arrange it. This layout is kind of assuming that you write your lessons once and then you might have to like rearrange them a few times to see how it fits. And let's see how the student views it. Here we have the lessons. The levels, here are the lessons. If you open up a lesson, you can look at the notes, go back to the instructions. Discusses where students can make comments, and you might want to check this yourself to see if a student has a question or feedback, so you can respond to them. Showcases where students upload a video at the end of the lesson, so you can kind of see, like if it's a logic art lesson, what they did. And when we go to record, this is what mentors would use at the end of mentoring someone. They would look up their learner, and this is where you can see the graduation requirements come in. So if I leave this unchecked and click on record, it'll record that the other student practiced it and they see some progress, like they see like a scratch mark. They've worked on it, but they don't get the check mark that they've completed it. Nice. So this is how you create a curriculum. Let's switch over to how you run a session. Imagine you have all your students in class. You'd come here to sessions and you can create a session. I'm gonna just give it a very simple name. I'm gonna call it Monday class. And now your students can join your session. I'm gonna do this separately on my desktop. And you should be able to see how see? Thomas came in. I'm the admin, so that's why I show up as an instructor. And I'm gonna have Suri come into class. Very nice. And then down here, let's assume you have all the students. You can pair up the students. And you can see the first round is set up. And it says Thomas is going to teach Suri pulling the perfect shot. And let's go back on top where it lists the participants. This is really useful. First, the students are sorted by proficiency. So your most experienced students are on top and your newest students are at the bottom. Your most experienced students are a little bit like a rare commodity because they can teach a lot of things. And your beginning students, they can't teach a lot. So you probably want to focus on pairing students with less proficiency earlier to make sure they are paired up, and then your more experienced students are a little bit like trump cards. Another strategy you might want to use when you fine-tune who teaches whom is You want people who are a little bit ahead of the persons they're mentoring. So if someone has just learned a lesson, they can teach the next person. But if they have learned the next 5 lessons, they're gonna come with just like a little bit more acumen to teaching it. The middle column is called teaching deficit. And this helps you balance out how much students teach and learn. You roughly want students to teach and learn the same amount within one learning lab. So if you look right now, Thomas would have taught 1 lesson and Suri would have learned 1 lesson. So Suri has a deficit of 1 because they should be teaching someone else. Sometimes you have a beginner and completely new people. It's just how it is. They have to learn for a while, so it's okay to be in the deficit. But in general, you want to balance it out. So if you were going to pair the next round, right now we don't have enough people to really do much. But I see Suri's deficit just grows and Thomas should really be learning something. So I'm gonna show you, we can remove this pairing and we don't have a lot of people logged in, but we could select someone else, and I realized I logged in twice. I logged in from my phone and my desktop, so that's why we show up twice. But you could pick someone else to mentor. You can now maybe have Thomas be the mentee, and you can also, oops, let's go back. You can also change the lesson. There's a bug. It's the lesson name is a little bit long. Let me do a thing where I go into the lesson. I'm going to fully graduate Suri now. So I'm going to go back into the session. And you see, what happens now, because Suri has learned that I could assign the 2 together and they would basically be practicing together because they have both learned it. Sometimes you want people to practice. And then the deficits go back to 0. And we can go to pair the next round. And you see now, because Suri knows pulling the perfect shots, the next lesson would be espresso tasting. And it's very fun to kind of reassign people lessons and order things, and it's even more fun if you can just trust the algorithm. The algorithm is really smart. If you have 20 students, it would be very hard to manually figure out who can teach whom, because you probably don't remember every lesson somebody knows, and it's 20 people. The algorithm also thinks ahead, because maybe based on your pairing you create a bottleneck. A bottleneck is if you arrive at a point where everyone has to learn a certain lesson, but only 1 student knows a lesson. So that's a bad thing, because you have people standing around. So it's kind of almost like chess. It's good to like think ahead, like how do I have to pair people now in order to make the next pairings work out. And then when you're done at the end of your session, you can end the session and it closes it out. And that's it. That's how an instructor would use a Learning Lab app.